Hey everybody, Pop and Fresh here. I am here to review my draft for the NDUL, which stands for the National Dex Ubers League. But I just like to it's close enough to Noodle, so that's more of a fun thing to call it for me. So that's what we're referring it to as the Noodle League. So I want to go through, talk about my picks, and I'm going to go through in order and use this handy dandy little chart here to see what each of my picks fulfill and what niches they carve out and how they should hopefully synergize all together. So when I started this league, I was looking at it, and there's a lot of really powerful mons in this. You can do anything from like Mega Lucario, and Mega Salamence, Mega Kang, Xerneas, Groudon, not the OP stuff like Kyogre, and any of the primals or Mega Rayquaza or anything like that, but still lots of hard-hitting dudes. And given that, I thought that I probably didn't want to prioritize my my higher tier picks first. I figured no matter what I would end up getting, I could have some kind of powerhouse, be it offensive, defensive, or a little mix of both, that would end up fitting into my team. So it's kind of like what I did for the first season with EVL. I knew actually no, it's not what I did. I guess I was just thinking of the fact that I saved Gyarados for last in my first season with the VBL. It was kind of a good little wrap-up piece because I knew I'd get a good tier 1. So that's kind of what I did here. I knew all the Ubers are good, more or less, and most of the Megas are good. So I figured I wouldn't start with that. I would start off with something that it's one of a kind and really would be prone to getting picked otherwise. So I started off with Clefable. So whereas its little baby form is better in doubles, Clefable is really, really good in singles, surprisingly. It's not what you would typically expect from looking at its stats. When I started playing competitive, I was very confused as to why Clefable was actually, well, when I started, it was in Gen 4, so it wasn't good yet. It's good in Gen 4 now, but people hadn't really seen what the hype was, and come Gen 6, it turns into a fairy and blows everyone's mind, which granted, getting turned from a normal type to a fairy type is about the biggest buff you could possibly imagine. Sorry, a little stuffy, it's really bad allergy season this year. But, so, Clefable, super, super good. And it's even today, it kind of still astounds me the fact that it's as good as it is, given that none of its stats are higher than 95. It doesn't have a super high base stat total like mons these days have. But it's a combination of factors that make it as good as it is. First of which being Magic Guard, a amazing ability. No hazard damage, no life orb damage if I want to go offensive, no status, anything like that. So it makes Clefable a great sponge for toxic, T-Spikes, Thunder Wave, or not Thunder Wave, but like burns or things like that. It also gets Unaware, which is very, very good against teams with boosters. Pretty common in singles. Special boosters, I'd probably say less so. So that's less good than if Clefable had high physical defense as opposed to special defense. Because if you can sit there while they continue to Dragon Dance or Swords Dance, you can sit there and smile. But Clefable doesn't quite have the physical bulk, so Clefable might be better if you swapped defense and special defense, but that just means it has different checks and checks different things. But on the whole, Clefable's a great mon. It has like the widest moveset of any Pokemon, besides Mew, I think. Spherical, duh. And let's see what it adds to the team. In terms of hazards, it only adds Stealth Rock, which is fine because it's the best hazard. It does get Teleport, but I think Teleport's it's incompatible with Soft Boiled, or it's incompatible with Wish. I don't remember which it's incompatible with, but it kind of sucks because what do you call them? I think it's Soft Boil, because I think Soft Boil was an event move a long, long time ago. But if I really wanted to do that, I could maybe do Baton Pass, assuming I don't have any stat buffs. I don't know if Baton Pass is from an event or what. But besides that, it also offers very good support options, or cleric options rather. I gotta get my terminology right. So Aromatherapy, Heal Bell, Wish, and Healing Wish. Those are all great options. Wish probably the most practical. Wish passing is very, very useful, especially when you have a team with not many ways to self-heal, as we'll kind of see as we go farther along. Granted, I have a lot of Regenerators. Okay, that's spoilers. That's spoilers. We'll wait to talk about that. Types, we have one fairy type checked off, possibly the best fairy type in the game, besides Xerneas, but we don't talk about Xerneas here. And as we see right here, I will check off clear healing and cleric support due to the fact that it can wish, it can run therapy, and even healing wish if it really needs to. It's a good stuff. And Clefable can also be a setup threat. With Calm Mind, it can really start to run through teams if you don't have a good answer to it. And with Calm Mind, a Life Orb, and Magic Garb, you can do some really good damage off that otherwise kind of not so hot 95 special attack. Moving on, I went for my Mega pick. I picked Mega Caesar, and I picked that for a couple of reasons. One, Bug Steel is a super good type. It has a lot of resistances, only one weakness to fire, and that actually might be a bigger deal than I think it is. And that's due to the fact that in this league, Hidden Power still exists. All the moves that got removed still exist. So you can see that there with Heal Bell. But Hidden Power Fire, it's pretty easy to slap on any mon. And unless I have significant investment, it can come pretty close to either OHKOing or cleanly 2-hit KOing Mega Scizor, despite how bulky Mega Scizor is. I mean, it has Skarmory physical defense. Nothing else really has this kind of special defense, but it's still bulky on that side as well if you invest into it. And Mega Scizor is good for a couple of reasons. One, it hits really hard, and two, it hits really fast. Not because of its speed though, but because of Bullet Punch and all the Technician fun stuff that it gets. Bullet Punch, Bug Bite does ridiculous amounts of damage. It can be a pivot with U-turn, and also gives me my first form of hazard removal, being Defog, which is nice because it's not immune to any hazard, well besides Toxic Spikes, but it's not weak to any hazard either. So that gives me a good option to switch in, clear them out, and then get out. And Mega Scizor, being as bulky as it is a great recipient of wishes from Clefable, because it doesn't really have a way to heal itself besides Roost, which is great, but once you have Defog and Roost on one set, you're quickly running out of moves, and you typically want to run Scizor with a boosting move and at least Bullet Punch. So if I'm mono attacking with Bullet Punch, I get shut down pretty easy, so that's something to keep in mind. Given this, it also checks off immediate physical offense with that nuts 150 base attack, and its Technician Bullet Punches, so good stuff there. I'm one away from filling out my Fairy Dragon Steel Core already with the first pick, but will he do it? Remains to be seen. Also, my hair has gotten too long and out of control, so I'm hatted today. I just can't deal with it anymore. For my third pick, I wanted to pick Slowbro to go with a good physical wall alongside Clefable's good, especially defensive wall, but I didn't get that. So I got his brother, Slowking, who essentially you can kind of EV to turn it into a Slowbro, so it doesn't really matter too much. And I think Slowking has like a slightly bigger, I think it learns like one more move over Slowbro. It might be Power Gem because of this little thingy up there. But I'm totally fine with Slowking. I put it as my backup pick for a reason. It's not something I needed to think about. If I didn't get one, I was going to pick the other. So we ended up with Slowking. Ability-wise, he's got some good abilities. For singles, though, his only really relevant one is Regenerator, though. Gaining 33% of your HP every time you switch out is super duper nice, especially if you are a teleporter mon. So you can get that slow momentum as well as healing yourself off, and he's really not dying in one hit ever. He's got good HP, decent defense, great SPDF, so you can slap an Assault Vest on him, make him never die to special moves, or you can invest physical and still live and kind of pretend to be a Slowbro, but really they're essentially the same Pokemon. It's just kind of slightly tuned for different things. In terms of moves, he doesn't really give me too much unique. Teleport's nice, it's always great to have. It's crazy how much that move went from being absolute dog shit to being incredibly broken. But he's really good. He's really good mon, great defensive, a great water type, has the special attack to still do good amounts of damage. So I'm not just sitting there and spamming Toxic, which can be removed. I can actually hit you with Scald, burn you, and my favorite thing, set up Future Sight. Because I cannot tell you how many games I've played where I forget I set up Future Sight, my opponent forgets I set up Future Sight, and something just gets nuked from orbit a couple turns later. It's a lot of fun. I really like the Slow Twins. I was also looking at Galarian Slowking, who's objectively better in stats, but I like the water type. It gives me good Stab Scald, which is, I think, more valuable than Stab Sludge Bomb, and Burn is a lot more useful than Poison tends to be. So that is that. He really doesn't fill out any of these other boxes here, but that's okay, we'll keep that in mind. Up next, I picked another defensive mon. Spoilers, I picked lots of defensive mons. And that is Gliscor. Gliscor, I picked mainly because I think if I had gotten Slowbro, I think I would have been less inclined to pick Gliscor because he's very, very physically defensive and has an inclination to stop that kind of stuff. But what Gliscor has is a lot of annoying things. The best ability in the game, I think, Poison Heal. So give him a Toxic Orb and he's getting double leftovers per turn, can't be statused. Knockoff no longer means anything to him once he gets that first turn off. And it's so nice. He gets a lot of good moves as well. Stealth Rock, Defog, U-Turn, and Baton Pass, but I don't think anybody would ever actually use that over U-Turn. Because passing any boost is banned in this league, so do not really make a difference. The Gliscor is there to sit on the field, be incredibly annoying, be a great pivot, and my team is pretty slow, so it can kind of, if I face another slow team, I might have issues dealing with it. But Gliscor is really good in that he gives me a good stall breaking option. Taunt, Poison Heal, and just pretty much with those two things alone, he can shut down almost any other stall team. And that's why I picked him right away, because I knew I was leaning into a more defensive build, and I wanted to have a mon that could shut down defensive builds, so I didn't want to see this played against me, so I picked him. So that is why Gliscor is here. In terms of typing, he gives me a rock and a flying, or not a rock type, a ground and a flying type, which is always been a super cool combo. Gives me only weak to water and ice. Granted, I do have another ×4 weakness here, and as you'll see as we go along, I kind of do stack up on my ×4 weaknesses, but like I explained earlier, Hidden Power is a pretty big threat. It can be slapped on any mon for just that 4th move, and one thing that I do kind of like though about stacking quad weaknesses is that it makes you really unable to figure out which Hidden Power you want to run, honestly. You can either run HP Fire for Caesar, HP Ice for Gliscor. I say those two mons' names totally different every time I say it though, so bear with me. But between those different mons right away, you have to pick go on Fire or Ice, because only one's going to work, and you can't have both, so it makes that choice a lot more difficult. Going back down the line, I think I chose a kind of offbeat pick next, which was Heracross. And Heracross doesn't really seem to fit in on this team yet. He's a bug and fighting type, very offensively focused mon, not defensive like at least 3 out of these first 4 are. And Mega Scizor is honestly pretty defensive as well. That's why I liked him. I guess just going back on it, Mega Scizor only cost me 40 points, and this thing is typically ranked like 18 or 17 points in a singles draft point league, so I figured that was pretty good value. Being valued the same as like, I don't know, whatever else costs 40 points in the Mega slot. But Heracross I picked for kind of a weird reason. He kind of, this might be a stretch, but it kind of feels to me like he acts like Ash Greninja. And I say that because you see Heracross come in, you cannot let it get the kill. Because if it gets the kill, it's the +1 Moxie boost, and then it starts going through your team with super effective stab fighting moves, which do a lot of damage. Bug, which is usually not as good as fighting for a stab, but it gets the job done. But, like Ash Greninja, if you see him come in, you're going to want to switch so that he doesn't get that train rolling. Then he can just spike. You can set up a layer of spikes and get out of there. And if Heracross comes in, forces a switch, gets a layer of spikes up, that's a positive. That's a net positive for me, which is what I want. So that's why I picked him. He really doesn't have much in the terms of defense, so he's mainly a fast, hard hitter. Pretty much would only be run with the Scarf ever. And he gives me a spike option, which is nice because I had not had that prior. So yeah, that's what Heracross does. Let's see what else he helps you with. Minimum 3 hazard setters. I do have that now with 2 stealth rockers and 1 spiker. And that is about that. Okay, moving on. As I looked at it at this point in the draft, most of the Ubers had gone by now, but there was still one that I was looking at, and it had a really nice solid place on my team, and I really wanted to make sure that nobody else got it. So next up, I picked, oops, that's not how you spell that. Next up, I picked Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is a super cool mon now that it gets Regenerator, and even better now that heavy duty boots exist, so that I can switch in and not even have to think about losing 50% of my health due to stealth rocks. unless I get knocked off. In which case, if I do get knocked off, healing 33, losing 50, you're not down that much. It's like 17% you only take, which granted is a lot, but he's immune to spikes and toxic spikes, so that'd be the same as taking 2 layers of spikes. So it's really not that bad when you consider the Regenerator giving him extra bulk. And when you look at his defenses, it's super tanky. 106 HP, 90 defense. That's pretty good right there off the bat. Then you look at that stupid 154 special defense. This thing is not dying from a thunder. This thing is not dying from, I wouldn't say power gem. Maybe he'd probably die from a power gem, but maybe he wouldn't if I invested fully. Ho-Oh's really good. He's got the attack stat to make himself not just an idle standby thing. It doesn't have to rely on toxic and whirlwind shuffling. It can do that viably, but it doesn't have to. And it also gets a nasty Sacred Fire, which is one of the best physical attacking moves in the game. Really only hurt by its low PP, which can make a difference in these singles matches, not so much in VGC. But with 100 base power, 50% chance to burn, and I think 90 or 95 accuracy, that's a move most Pokemon would want to have. And that 90% accuracy is definitely worth the 50% burn rate. And with Stab, even uninvested, that does a lot of damage, even not super effectively. So, being able to get that burn really backs up that 90 defense even more, making Ho-Oh just an unstoppable wall. People call Lugia the Great Wall, but when you think about it, Ho-Oh could probably just as easily be called that. And given the offensive prowess it has, it's not just a wall, it's a tank. It's a nice little flying tank. Also gives me defog, so if I need to support the rest of my team who don't have boots most likely, that's what our little friend here is for. So looking at this, I have most of a Fire, Water, Grass core filled out, most of a Fairy Dragon Steel core filled out. I now have, I guess I had this earlier, the 2 hazard removals. So what I'm lacking, I don't have a grounded poison type. I don't have immediate special offense. I do not have the Fire, Water, Grass, Fairy Dragon Steel, and I'm going to fill this out later. I think I end up checking this off because I just have so many defensive pieces. But I was looking at it, and I don't really remember why I picked this next one. I also don't really remember which one I picked next. That's okay. We'll say that I picked... we'll say I picked Magnezone next. And Magnezone is a pretty nasty mon as well. Again, one of those mons I picked because I didn't want to face it. And it works pretty well with my team. Magnezone is about the best Mega Scizor check you could want. Very defensive, gets hit in Power Fire, and can then kill in one hit with Specs. And given that, I do not want to face it, so I picked it. And it also works out pretty well. You can run it fast with Scarf, get some good pivoting in there with Volt Switch. It also learns Teleport, but I don't think I would ever use that over Volt Switch, which can be doing a lot of damage. And additionally, you don't even have to run Magnet Pull. I think just running Magnezone a lot, you see it switch in on a Steel type, and people just assume, okay, I'm trapped, I give up. But you could do that, and if they don't actually try to switch, you can run Sturdy without them knowing. You can especially run Analytic without them knowing. And there's even some sets of Magnezone that don't even run Magnet Pull, or at least it was for a time. It didn't even run Magnet Pull, it just ran Analytic to hit incredibly hard afterwards. Because I mean, 130 special attack, Analytic with Specs, it's gonna be dropping nukes everywhere. So Magnezone is a really good flexible mon. It helps me out. Everybody had drafted the flying Steel types at this point, so those are definitely harder to go up against. If say I already lose Ho-Oh or something like that, none of these guys can really answer those, but Magnezone absolutely can, so it's nice to have some redundancy there. He also checks the immediate special offense box, especially when given those nice looking glasses for his little 3 eyes. He's got a custom pair for that. And still doesn't fill out these ones, which is okay. And moving on to my next mon, I picked a good old friend of mine from Season 1 of the VBLS, Amoonguss. And with this pick, I was able to fill out my Fire, Water, Grass core, and get, I think, my 3rd Regenerator mon. So my team is looking very, very bulky, really fat, and not much can really break through a core of good Regenerator mons, which, funnily enough, my Fire, Water, Grass core is all Regenerator. I actually didn't even notice that until right now. So that makes that core even harder to slap through, because if you switch out, every time I switch out, I'm gaining. Every time you switch out, you're probably not going to have Regenerator, and even if there's hazards on my side of the field, I'm still going plus, assuming they don't have 4 layers of spikes and Stealth Rock. And it's it's a really good incremental advantage kind of thing I can get, especially if I have even one hazard up. Every switch I make gives me a benefit, and every switch they make also gives me benefit. So I like how that looks. But Amoonguss, it's definitely not as good as it is in VGC. It's not a tier 1 pick. It's not an S tier pick. It was like a tier 3 or 4. So I thought that was pretty good value for Amoonguss, given that it can spore things to sleep and be incredibly annoying. It can regenerate every time it switches out. Beyond that, it doesn't really do too much. It can run Clear Smog if I really, really need that. But that's what my Unaware Fable's for. But that's like a backup kind of thing. What else does Amoonguss do? It can run Hidden Power. It has a decent special attack at 85. Its regular attack is pretty nice at 85 as well. Could be nice to run a physical Amoonguss 1 week. Keep your eyes peeled for that. But no, I think Amoonguss is mainly it's mainly a good pivot. It soaks up Toxic Spikes, which is definitely what I want it for. My team's not really too weak to Toxic Spikes as it is. Heracross can get boosted with Guts, but having Slowking poisoned really, really, really hurts my team. So, bringing the Firewater Grass Core and being able to soak up the spikes and protect Slowking from that. If Slowking is poisoned, it's manageable. If it's toxic, that's a death sentence, man. Slowking does not have the ability to stay in forever. Even though it gets Slack Off, it can help off poison, but if it's toxic, it's going down. So that's what Amoonguss is for. A very good pivot with that big HP spat. I think it's actually the highest on my team in terms of HP. It can definitely tank some hits, despite its defenses not being the best. After this, I went for a weird pick. And this was mainly just a value pick, because I don't think there's any reason why Typhlosion should be in tier 5? I was going to say F tier, but that's essentially what tier 5 means. It's ranked there with Caterpie, Grookey, all that other shit. But Typhlosion doesn't really do much. I picked it because it's another switch in for Mega Scizor to discourage them from using fire type moves. Because if I get a Flash Fire boosted Scarf Eruption, that's a way to end a game right there. But realistically, I don't think that'll happen very often. Typhlosion's kind of a dead pick, but it's just nice. It's kind of fun. Another offensive threat because my team is kind of lacking in offense right now. Check out Firewater Grass. So only things left are Fairy Dragon Steel and having my speed tiers intact. As you can see already, I am averaging out, having higher physical attack, and my defenses are pretty nice as well, but definitely low in speed. And these next two picks are not going to help that. Next up, I picked Omastar. Well, this was originally Tyrantrum, but I picked that for a Dragon, and then I realized I don't really put too much stock in the Fairy Dragon Steel core. If possible, it's nice for the offenses, but I didn't really think Tyrantrum was doing it for me defensively, so I didn't pick him. I picked Omastar because he gets all 3 of the damage dealing hazards, which is super, super nice. And he also gets Shell Smash, so if you see an Omastar in, you can't let it have a free turn. It's either going to get rocks, spikes, T-spikes, or Shell Smash in shit on your team. So, super cool there. It's a nice combo. But again, it's really, really weak to grass types. Another 4x weakness I have. So let's count the 4 times weaknesses. We have Mega Scizor, Fire, Gliscor, Ice, Heracross, Flying, Ho-Oh, Rock, Magnezone, Ground, Omastar, Grass. So, lots of very big weaknesses here. Thankfully, most of them are covered by something else. Fire, we have a 4 times resist from Omastar. Ice, we actually don't have a 4 times resist. Ground, we have some immunities. Flying, we have a 4 times resist there from Magnezone. And then Rock, I do not have a 4 times resist, because Rock type 4 times resists are super hard to find. But that's okay. And Grass, I have a... Wait, Grass? Yeah, I have a 2 4 times resists from Ho-Oh and Amoonguss. So at least those are covered. And Omastar is a nice kind of... It doesn't have a very big moveset, but it has enough to do a lot of damage, either over time with residual hazards, or just smashing up and getting that party started. So that is 10 picks. So I had 1 pick left. I don't remember which was actually my last pick, but my last mon was kind of a pet favorite of mine for stall, Pyukumuku. It's another unaware mon. It has really high defenses, pretty bad HP, and it's also really, really slow. And another fun thing about Pyukumuku is I don't think it actually learns any attacks. Everything it has is like a status move. So, kind of fun, kind of taunt bait, but it's good enough. It's definitely easy to prep for, so I got to keep my eye out on that. Pyukumuku is really, really good at stopping setup sweepers, because with 130 defense and special defense, I can prepare for whatever kind of boosted move you're going to do. Dragon Dance, I got you. Swords Dance, got you. Nasty Plot, done. So Pyukumuku is versatile in that way, and it's also really good at preventing other stall teams from stopping me from doing my thing, because it can do it only really needs these 4 moves typically: block, soak, toxic, and recover. With those, it can keep anything in there with it, turn it into a water type, poison it, and then heal itself up while the other thing slowly dies. And it's something that I've used on the ladder many times back in Gen 7. I haven't really played Gen 8 OU too much, or really Gen 8 National Decks too much, but it's a strategy that I'm sure people will know is coming if they see Pyukumuku on the team and in prep. But still, it's one of those things where if you get yourself out of position one time, Pyukumuku can trap you and kill him on. It's just a delete button. And despite being tiny and cute, and dude, these things are so cute in Pokemon Snap too. I love this little guy. He's adorable. So that is my team as it is right now. I was watching some of the power rankings from some of the other guys in the league. I was going to do power rankings, but holy shit, that's a lot of work, so I don't think that'll be happening, unfortunately. Sorry, but that is my team as it is right now. I'm thinking of making some other switches, though. No, I won't talk about that yet. That would kind of spoil things. I'll make another video on that if I do. So let's look over moves I have. I have access to 3 different hazards with 5 different mons doing. Sorry, 4 different mons doing that. Can't count. 3 defoggers, 3 regenerators, a lot of pivot options, and 1 cleric in Clefable. So overall, I set out to build a stall team. I think I kind of succeeded. The only mons I would have liked instead would have been Toxapex, but you can't have everything. So that's how the team shaped out. I will be playing my first game later this week, I think Saturday, so quite a ways away, but yeah, I'll be making a team builder video for that and trying to keep on top of making videos. I think I finally worked out my audio situation, so we'll see if I end up making more videos with audio or not, or more videos with terrible quality. I uploaded 1 video for the Monotype tournament, and Braff messaged me, dude, your audio's like dog shit, what happened? I'm like, oh fuck, I didn't even watch that video back. But yeah, this is the draft team. I'm excited, looking forward to it. Happy to do a singles draft league. That's my my OG format. Been playing that since Gen 5. But yeah, that's the team. Very bulky. Didn't end up checking all these boxes, but honestly, I don't think you need to check all these boxes. The one that I'm kind of worried about is the speed tiers. My team's incredibly slow. Granted, that's driven down by Pyukumuku, so let's delete that, and it jumps up to a 68, which is still pretty slow, but I think I have the tools to deal with that, be it either Shell Smash, Priority, and Scarf. So, that's the team. I will catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.